Hey, it's Lexi from Kemp. Today we're going to be making some flower medallion charms out of some preserved flowers that I picked from my garden and from other parts of nature. So let's get started. So here I am in my garden. It's time for my favorite step, and that's picking the right flower. Today we're going to be making jewelry charms. So I chose a variety of different flowers to choose from. You can do this where you make sure your flower has a handle so you can preserve the flower fully, or with these little flowers you can just pick the actual flower, so we can flatten it or we can do any sort of craft with them. And I also had to choose a flower for my tortoise. He loves to eat the flowers in my garden too. Alright, so there's two methods to preserving flowers. The first one I'm going to show you is very easy and very affordable. You just pick a favorite journal, and then the second method is going to be getting some sort of flower press. Now the journal I picked is just an old journal with a string around it, and you can see that I've kind of just used it just for flowers and saved a bunch of them in there. So here you can kind of see me fluffing my flower, making sure that it's flat, where I can either cut the stem off or I can just bend it. The goal here is to fill up the page with a variety of flowers, or you can just pick one flower. It's really up to you. So you can see me just filling up my page and getting my flowers in a position so that they can be flattened with the rest of the journal. And after you have them flattened, it's a good idea to use a string or something to kind of bind your journal and keep them locked in. And then I like to put something heavy on top of my journal. Something bigger than this would be better, but a pot works too. Next method would be using a flower press. I actually got mine as a gift, but you can kind of see here I placed my flowers on some sort of cloth, and it's going to be in between two rectangles of cardboard. And it's the same way like the journal, just fill up a page, position them, and then flatten them. And once you have that, it's best to just gently slide your flowers into the press and then simply squish the flowers down with your flower press. Step 3, we're going to be resining our flowers. Pick out your flowers and pull out some materials. You're going to need some UV resin and gloves, a UV light. I prefer Silicone Tools because they're easier to clean up. I like tweezers and a lighter, and these silicone cups, but you can also use plastic cups. I used alcohol inks to add some color, and the reason for this is I want to mix some resin and ink together to create my first layer of resin for my pendant charm. So as you can see here, after I mixed, I need to pour in the resin into the charm mold. These silicone molds are great for creating little pendants because it has the hole included. Here you can see me spreading the resin all the way through to the edges. However, it doesn't fill up the entire thing. Now this lighter is to make sure that there's no air bubbles, because air bubbles are going to be the biggest challenge in this resin journey of ours. So as you can see, I cleared out my air bubbles with the lighter, and now it's time to cure the first layer. Now since this is the background layer and it's got the color included, I'm gonna put it on the highest timer. So that's gonna be around 2 minutes, and you can do more too if you added more ink. I like to tap them just to make sure they're all good and cured. Next, you're gonna wanna take some clear resin and start by spreading it on the charm background. This is gonna allow you to place your flower exactly where you want it, and the resin will help it kind of stick down with a little bit of that tackiness. It's easier for it to stay in place. And once I have it in a good spot, I start by slowly adding a little bit of resin at a time, kind of like glue. Oops, well, accidents happen, and all we have to do is put this little petal back. It's really okay if things break, because the resin allows for us to make mistakes and fix them. Here you see me curing that second layer where we didn't cover the whole flower, but we're starting to, little by little. And that's really the most important part, is just continuously adding resin layers in small amounts. This is going to help avoid air bubbles, and it's going to allow you to have more control over your pendant. As you can see, I'm getting into a bit of a thicker layer now, so I need to spread the resin all the way through the sides and try to cover my flower as much as I can. Here we can see those air bubbles, and they are so annoying. So I'm going to take my lighter and try to light them away. And you may have to use your lighter a couple times, go back with your tool and kind of fluff out those air bubbles. And it's sort of a process, so patience is key. As you can see, I got as many air bubbles out as I could, and now I'm going to cure this layer. After this layer, you really just want to keep filling the mold until it's filled up and done. Here you can see some other ideas for adding resin into a pendant, like glitter, which is one of my new favorite things, honestly. And if you wanted to really just experiment, be playful, that's definitely the way to go. It's really fun, just making sure that you don't get those air bubbles is really the only obstacle, and making sure everything is cured, including the back side of your molds, will help them to come out very cleanly. And look at these pendants, so cute. Time to take them out. So the key here is really just being slow and making sure you're gentle as you take them out of the silicone. Here we go. And this is so cute. I absolutely love this. I think that adding the blue background is really cute, but also having a clear background can work with a lot of different flowers. It's really just up to you and what you want to do. But here you can see I was just being playful and experimenting with different flower types and different colors. Okay, so next is an optional choice if you wanted to turn your pendant into some sort of charm or necklace. The materials you're going to need is some pliers, some jump rings, and this little ring that I like to use to open up those rings. Once you have an open ring, attach it to the pendant and close it up. This is the main part for making it into any sort of charm, whether it's a keychain, a necklace, a bracelet, whatever it is, and lock that ring in with the pliers. Next step for the necklace would be to grab some chain and a clasp. I measured out my chain with my measuring board, and I took my pliers and my special ring and opened up my chain to disconnect it from the rest. Here you can see I'm adding it to that first jump hoop we made. Jump hoop, yeah. So what you're gonna do is just attach that chain and make sure that you have the opposite end where you can detach it and add a clasp. I like adding clasps to necklace. It makes it easy, it makes it simple. And once you have that, you want to make sure the other side is open-ended. So you can see here, I'm taking apart that chain, one side clasp, one side open.
cute. Done. And this is another optional part. I took a little bit of wire, and you can get these little wire for beads at really any craft store online, and I chose these like cute blue tiny beads to go with our pendant. It's really just about being a little bit creative and having some fun. Once I have that, I took these smaller pliers and I kind of rounded out the end of the wire so that it will just hook into any part of the chain. I chose to hook it near the pendant for a little bit of like a cutesy look. This is the hardest part for me, so in the comments, if you could, if you have any ideas about how to make it easier to wrap wire around itself, that's really the final step here, is locking her in. And I took my cutters and just cut that excess off, as well as really just like pressing down. You can see here, press down the wire to make sure it doesn't scratch your skin or any sharp parts. And there you have it, a little bit of charm and a little bit of flower. Honestly, I can't wait to wear it. It's so pretty.
Thank you so much for watching. We made really pretty flower pendants, and we learned how to dry and preserve our flowers. Make sure to comment any questions or any advice that you have for me. This is my first YouTube video, so thank you so much for being here. Make sure to subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.